Do we have a quorum?
Yes, we did.
Okay. We'll go ahead and call the March 27th, 2024 meeting of the Jefferson County Metro Government Solid Waste Management District to order at 5:39 p.m. First order of business is approval of minutes. Have all the members had a chance to look at the minutes? And would somebody like to make a motion to accept?
I'll move.
Have a motion to accept. Do we have a second?
Second.
And a second. Thank you. Now, since there's a motion and a second, are there any changes, additions, or corrections to the minutes that anybody would have? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor of approval of the March 27th meeting, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed signify by saying no. Okay, the minutes pass. Thank you very much. Mr. Flood, first item on the agenda or second item on the agenda is the budget report for March 2024.
Okay. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yeah.
So not much has changed since last month. We are running at about $1,090,000 in actual income for this year, excluding our $2,887,000 rollover amount. So we're ahead of schedule from where we want to be. So things are going well in that regard. Personnel expenditures, not much change. $609,000 for personnel for about 60% of the year, which is running below what expectations would be. Our operating expenses is kind of difficult to tell because we have the rollover amount in there, but we are doing relatively good and we should be in pretty good shape. These are the expenses that have hit the Waste Management District account since the last meeting. The biggest expense here is for the Veolia, who operates our household hazardous materials site, which comes up to $35,000, $36,000, and $56,000. Those are the biggest, and then $10,000 and $651 for the next one and 21. So a lot of things hit from the Veolia for this month. I don't know why they were delayed, but that's what they are. The Huntington National Bank at $5,022 is our monthly payment for the front loader. So other than that, all other expenses were below the $5,000 mark. So if there's any questions, everybody should have received a full packet in your board member packets.
Are there any additional questions of Pete on the budget report? Okay, thank you, Pete. No correspondence to the board. So the next item would be the action items, annual solid waste management report.
So some of you guys have never been here for this annual report, so I am both going to do a little bit deeper explaining as we go through these things, so that you guys can kind of get an understanding of what we're doing here. So everyone should know that we do a 5-year solid waste management plan that was done, I think, December of 22. And so we have this plan that goes out for 5 years, gives us action items that we're going to work on, and things are kind of tracked from there. We do an annual update, and submit information on our annual solid waste management report. The purpose of this report is to provide qualitative data on the status of solid waste programs on an annual basis. So it's looking at, has there been any ordinances amended? What do we have coming in from out of state? It looks at compost, it looks at things that we recycle, the commodities that we have. How many households are served with recycling and the cost of those recycling operations. It looks at litter expenses and activities, road miles cleaned, number of bags collected, and garbage collection. It's looking at the how many collectors we have, types of collection, number of households served, cost per household, as well as where the material's going. And it also has us do service participation rates. So at the end of it, obviously, is a certification that it is true and accurate to the best of our ability. And what I will tell you is that this is a little bit of an abbreviated version. There's also education and enforcement and other things that, it's just a little bit lower level. So we'll start off with the waste disposal. And just as it said that for what counties are, from coming in from out of state. So we have waste from Jefferson County that goes to two landfills in Indiana, Medora and Clarks Floyd. But we also send stuff to Valley View landfill. And then the primary landfill that's in the county is Waste Management of Kentucky Outer Loop landfill. So, yes, Jefferson County waste goes to 4 different landfills. And we have the space at each one of those, but Waste Management, it probably gets the most of it. So in 2023, Jefferson County landfilled 1,027,024 tons of waste, considerable amount of waste.
Pete, I think it might be also useful to mention that waste picked up by Louisville Metro goes to the Outer Loop landfill, and that any waste going to those other 3 landfills is going there, not at the direction of the Waste Management District, but at the choice of the individual waste hauler that's picking it up, correct?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Okay, go ahead. Thank you.
So compost, just a little bit of information about that. Ordinance requires yard waste services must be offered to all households by waste collectors. That's part of the ordinance. Ordinance prohibits yard waste from being mixed with other waste or being landfilled. So you're not allowed to put yard waste in with your trash as a homeowner. And also a hauler is not allowed to mix yard waste with trash in their truck. And it's not supposed to go to landfill. So storm debris typically is handled by a normal collection or drop-off sites operated by Louisville. We haven't had a storm that's so big that, like the windstorm or the ice storm that took place back in 2009 or so, that required a curbside pickup, and hopefully we never will again. In 2023, there was 19,756 tons of yard waste collected and composted from curbsides and 45,975 tons from storms and contractor work. We did have, I think, 3 different storms that required storm debris drop-off sites. So that drove that number of 45,000 up quite a bit. Recyclers. There are 23 recyclers reporting through our retrack system that you guys approved last week or last month, with several other out-of-county facilities reporting through email. They're a little bit, they're kind of the one-off type recyclers, things that don't necessarily, they're not recyclers, but it's secondary to their business. But they generate a large amount of recycling that can be counted. So an example of that would be a document shredding company that they take and their primary job is shredding the material, but then they send it directly to a mill instead of to a recycling facility in Jefferson County. So we want to count that as diversion. So we have metal, we have 7 metal recyclers, 3 construction and demolitions, 3 material recoveries, 3 electronics, 2 waste tires, 2 household hazardous waste, and 2 compost facilities, and 1 other. There is probably more out there, and it's very difficult to find all of the recyclers. Every year that we have reporting by haulers, it seems like somebody else pops up as a recycler. So if we don't catch that, then we lose that tonnage, and it may be coming off of somebody that is licensed. So we have to be able to figure that out. It's a big shell game where everything goes. I think, Sean, did you have a raised hand?
Yes, I did. I just didn't want to jump in while you're going through that. Just out of curiosity, the amount landfilled, you said the 1,027,000 tons. How does that compare to recent years? Is that about par? Is that a large increase, or kind of expected based on population?
Let me look. Just a second. Let me get back with you. I don't think that it's a big difference. I think it's slightly increased, but I can confirm that. I just don't have that spreadsheet open. I got so many windows open, but rest assured it's not a big increase. And I think I'll be able to show you some of that a little bit.
Okay.
The main residential and commercial things that are recycled are listed here. Containers, fiber, mixed plastics, and I take a lot of these commodities that are collected and mingle them into one number, because this list would be way too big for this slide and too much information to put up here. So these are the main items. What you don't see up here is construction and demolition debris that's recycled. You don't see some individual products that are smaller in nature, that are so small. So, 365,000 tons of material from the residential and commercial sector was recycled in 2023, and 363,107 in 2022. So not much change in that. Let's see. Yes.
Is that containers? Is that corrugated?
No, that's going to be aluminum and tin can type materials.
So fiber would be corrugated cardboard.
Yeah.
And paper. Okay.
Yeah. One thing to note that is kind of a little bit concerning is our single stream continues to go down. And we'll talk a little bit more about that when we get to a different section. But it seems like even though the number of people that we pick up recycling from has remained fairly steady, the amount of single stream recycling collected at the curb continues to go down. And it's not a short trend. It's been going on for several years, but it's something to watch. Education. You guys hear a lot about our education program because it's so good. And you hear about it usually at every meeting. So we're not going to get into a whole lot. I think Karen's going to go over a couple initiatives tonight after we get through most of our agenda. So these are the things that really go on: the No Waste Wednesday trivia post, the No Waste Ambassador program, which is awesome. The Recycle Right, you'll hear about that tonight. The anti-litter outreach campaign, it adds up. I don't think you're going to hear about that tonight, but we will be bringing that up at the next meeting. We do recycling flyers and video links, and there's a whole lot of that stuff that's out there. All of this is in an appendix of the plan. Litter abatement or litter activities. So this is a really huge issue in Metro, in every city, and all of the different programs that we use to try to mitigate litter. I try to list here. It's not a comprehensive list by no means. It doesn't include certain items. We don't include our equipment cost in here. So that's a big one. So Clean Collab, I'll just go through several of them. Clean Collab and grant funded crews, that's about 18 people that work all year. They're a constant crew. They just don't work during Derby. They work year round. They're doing the hand collection of litter along the major arterials which I believe is about 1,100 miles. And last year we was able to get through the whole city of arterials 5.5 times, I believe, which was 1.5 times more than we did the previous year. So that was a really good thing. They picked up 313,000 pounds of litter. That's a huge number. But as you can see when you look outside, it's not gotten it all for sure. Street sweeping, both suburban and urban. Your numbers there, the road miles are high. The pounds are fairly low, but keep in mind that we can only count 25% of anything street sweeping for the grant. They consider only that portion to be litter. Most of the material that we're picking up is going to be leaves, dirt, gravel, those types of things. The Louisville Downtown Partnership. This is closer to the Central Business District. There's an agreement through the Clean Collab to help fund additional Clean Collab crews that will go through that area and pick up. There's generally 100,000 assigned to that each year. They spent 97,350 during 2023. The Louisville Downtown Partnership Ambassador Program. This is a BID area, which is an area around that Central Business District that's paid for not by Metro, so it's privately funded, but we still track it. The Lou Med Ambassadors, that's by most of the hospitals downtown. They have their own ambassador program that goes through and picks up litter. They fund that themselves. The Louisville Community Ambassadors, which is ambassadors that operate outside of the central core. I believe that's funded by Metro, but I don't have the numbers on the cost on that one. Goodwill, another way they take out crews, people trying to get back on their feet. Goodwill takes care of the funding for that. And they're a huge asset to us. Lots of times we can call on them and say, hey, we got an area here that needs some attention, and they can get out there and take care of it. Expressway hand cleanings. This is one that we actually pay the state contractor directly to do 4 extra litter pickups along the expressways during the non-grass cutting season. If we didn't do this, the interstates would be 5 times worse than they are. So this is, the full cost of going around one time is somewhere in the $143,000 one sweep around the interstates. But that is paid for through the Clean Collab and through the litter abatement grant. They pick up a lot of litter, as you can tell. There's lots of it out there. We also have the Waste Management District. It Adds Up litter campaign. We funded that last year. We paid $75,585 in 2023 to keep that going. Brightside Events. This is your community cleanups. This is your neighborhood cleanups that they do. The $7,500 is basically supplies, t-shirts, gloves, type of material. They picked up 76,000 pounds or 3,048 bags. And then we have the Brightside Stash Your Cash campaign, which was 13,400. So in all, we spent $1,456,591 on litter abatement, excluding equipment cost and other programs that we don't have the information from. I would say that it's easily over $2 million that we spend. We receive $403,000 in litter abatement grant funding that is applied towards that to help offset that. So we have invoices to justify or to or back up the expenses of the $403,000, and those are available for anybody that needs to see those. Any questions on the litter abatement? Okay. Waste collectors. We have curbside collectors. We have 7. Those are the people that go around with garbage, recycling, and yard waste. We have 7 companies that are doing front load service. That's the trucks with the forks on the front, and it just picks up a huge dumpster and puts it in. And then we have 51 roll off or bulk waste handling companies. That is anybody from the small mom and pop with a small dump trailer to somebody that's running 10-yard or 30-yard roll off trucks. So what's going on curbside? These are the things that we look at. In 2023, we had 6 haulers. One of them is not on here. That's the city of Shively. We don't get their statistics, but all in all, you can see that private waste collection picked up 230,000. Metro picked up 93,000, and you can see the different commodities of going across the screen. In the overall diversion rate, that is the material that is diverted from the landfill, comes up to 11.9 or 25.6 for a countywide rate of 15.9%. I put on a little bit of a tracking here, and this should be 2018. I apologize. But you can see that as we have went from 2018 to 2023, these numbers continue to go down, which is concerning, particularly since a lot of the numbers of people that are participating in these programs has not necessarily decreased. So I did leave out 2020 because that was an abnormal year. There was the pandemic that was taking place, and it would basically just skew the numbers a little bit, and we wouldn't be able to see the trend. So that it's a little bit concerning that we've dropped that much. Variable rate pricing. This is what we have, what waste haulers report, as part of the annual report. You can see that the average price per household is $21.48 for trash, $8.44 for recycling, and $15 for yard waste. One of the things that you need to keep in mind is that this is accounting for all the average of all the contracted households and subscription households. So you're going to have a lot of variance as it goes across the city. 844, you can, in the recycling, you can have every other week in there and weekly in there. So you can get some pretty big variables. And the same thing with yard waste being seasonal. So you can see what that is. So when you look at the trends in garbage, there's been a fairly steady increase that's been going on for quite some time. In recycling, I think that's pretty much expected.
Can I ask a question actually on the previous slide, Pete?
Yes, sir.
So when you're calculating the numbers, are you just I haven't done the math by looking at it. Are you just adding up the garbage rates and dividing by 6, or are you multiplying by the reported number of households?
Are you talking about the
hauler?
21.4? You're talking about like the garbage? It's 21.48. It's an average of each hauler's of the.
So if hauler 6 has 100 homes, that's going to be weighted as much as hauler 5 might have 20,000.
Yes.
Like just on this list. But, I mean, you all have the actual numbers from everybody, but just on this slide, it's just adding up the 6 and dividing.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
If anything, I would say that it would be a little bit conservative on the prices that's charged, depending upon which of the things we're talking about, garbage, recycling, or yard waste. But I get your point, and that is something that maybe I will try to wait in the future based upon the number of households an individual hauler is charging multiplied by that number of households. But I get where you're going.
Yeah, and I think it's still directionally correct. I don't think there's going to be a huge, if it's $1 up or down, it's not going to be that big of a difference. But I just for my own, calculation, I was just wondering.
Yeah, I think it's a good point. Curbside collection services. We do this based upon census data. So we've been up and down a little bit, but we've been in that mid 98 or so in the past several years. This year we dropped to 96.7. Some of that is because of an adjustment based upon the census data and the number of occupied households. It really doesn't account for the decrease in total. It does some, but you wonder if part of this is it's getting a little bit more expensive. People are having trouble paying their bills, and that's why we're getting a reduced rate. And 3.3% might not seem like a lot, but when you look at compared to the number of households that we have, 3.3% equates to about 9,300 households. So where does that waste go? It goes into somebody else's trash can. It goes into somebody else's dumpster. It stays on the property and builds up in the garage, which causes a lot of problems, or it gets illegally dumped. So a lot of unknowns about where all that stuff goes, but I guarantee you that it's going somewhere. This is commercial dumpsters and the percentages and the number of customers. And I may have this actually this slide wrong. This may be tons. But let me just bypass this slide. Okay, at the end of this, at the end of the report, we basically need to look at this and certify that it's been done to the best of our knowledge, and that we can be assured that the litter grant funds have been expended towards legitimate litter expenses according to the grant requirements. It's very difficult for you guys to do without having the full report, but they also don't give us a whole lot of time to get this done. In the past, based upon all of the questions or this review, typically I will get with Bob if he wants to review things, and Bob can sign it on behalf of the board if the board so chooses to give Bob that authority to do so. So I know that this is a lot, and there's a whole lot more that goes into this behind some of these numbers. So if anybody has any questions or concerns, I'd be more than happy to address those and do the best that I can. And if it requires a little bit more information on your part, just let me know. But my goal here is to go ahead and get this signed so that I can get this into the state by April 1st. So open up the board, for questions if anybody has any.
Pete, we had to ask for an extension again this year, right? While we were getting data together.
We did. We have every year for the most part. We're a fairly big county. I think the last time I spoke with you guys, we had 15 or 16 people that had not reported and were under notice of violation. We got most of those squared away. We still have one reporter that's not, and they're in the citation phase. So we'll see where that goes. We did have some people paying fines for not reporting on time, but most of the time it's been somebody that's not, they drugged their feet 2 years in a row. Can't continue to do that.
Pete, is this entire report is available to board members if they want to have the entire thing to look at, correct?
They can. It's a sizable report, probably a couple hundred pages. There are appendices to these, which is the paper reports of what everybody has sent in for the recyclers, transfer stations, landfills, waste haulers, composters, and all of that has individual things have to be attached to the plan before it goes to the state. Also, what is included in the appendices is the any kind of education material that was used throughout the year. Karen puts that together so that's an appendices to the plan. There's like 9 different appendices And when you're putting all of these individual reports in, it can be lengthy.
The actual, I don't want to say the report itself. Well, I guess the report itself, the printed pages that are sent to you by the state that you have to fill in the blanks on, how long is that? It's that part of it.
It's not all that big. It's probably 20 to 25 pages. But if we put the continuation pages in there, it's probably somewhere closer to 50. The state has certain spots for the number of haulers that you have to input. It's never enough for us, so we have to use other pages that connect to it.
Does anybody have any more questions or any questions of Pete on this?
Yeah, on the pricing reporting, was this on slide 15? This is one that Andy had some questions about, and I had some of kind of the similar or same questions. In previous years, was the same methodology used to calculate those rates? Just
Yes.
basically adding and averaging the rates.
Yeah, it's been consistent
Okay.
since probably 2015, I would say.
Okay. All right. I just wanted to make sure that at least we were using the same methodology if that's the way that we were doing it. Because otherwise we could recalculate it for the actual rate if we had that data, but then it wouldn't be really comparable to prior years.
Right. And I think that it would be a good exercise that if we're going to change that method in the future, that we go back and recalculate the previous years in the same method as well.
Okay.
So that we can see what it is.
And it also should be noted that when we're doing this presentation, or when Pete's doing this presentation on the annual report, he's using averages for a reason, and that is that a number of years ago, we got a county attorney's opinion that the individual prices that were quoted to us by the waste haulers could be, and other statistics, like if they reported the number of homes they serviced and that type of stuff. We have a county attorney's opinion that says that it can be considered confidential business information. So we don't make public how many customers hauler A has versus hauler B or hauler C. So if you end up having to use averages, at least for the public presentation part of this, we have it all on, or should say Pete has it all on file in the district, but it's not individual haulers pricing is not released because it's considered confidential business information.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I think Andy had made a comment about that maybe when we had orientation a few months ago. They certainly wouldn't want to expose that. That makes sense.
Any other questions? Pete, since we only do this once a year, do we do a motion from the board to approve the annual report? Since we're only doing it once a year, I forgot how you do it.
Yeah, we that is the preferred method. Yes.
Can I ask them before I would move, but I do want to ask a question about the slide that you skipped over, Pete, that you said that there was an error with it, or it might have just been the wrong slide on commercial collection.
It's got a wrong heading. Reported customers, I don't think is the right heading. I believe that's probably supposed to be tons.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm concerned about. And I don't want to give anybody the false impression. So I would rather have skipped over it. This is not something that I've actually put into the presentation in the past, and I added it this year. So I would rather make sure that I'm doing it right instead of, so I really don't want to delve into this slide too much.
So just to clarify, are we voting to give Bob the authority to sign off, to like take a deeper dive and then sign off on this? Or are we as the board collectively voting to sign off on it right now?
I think Pete is asking the board to collectively sign off on it right now so that he can get it submitted. But if the board wants to take a deeper dive, board members are certainly welcome to ask that.
Yes, that's true.
Okay, I was just curious. It's a lot of information, but I can tell that a lot of work was put into pulling it together and making sure it's accurate. So I appreciate that.
I probably at this point should compliment Pete and any of the staff that work on this, because having worked in this a number of years ago, it's a pain in the butt, to put it politely.
I can vouch for that. And yes, others have put a lot of help into this. So I greatly appreciate those that have helped these.
And part of the reason why it's such a pain is just the size of Jefferson County relative to the rest of the state of Kentucky. The state drafts these reports based on what they deal with on a daily basis, and that's not Jefferson County. So it ends up really being an effort to get this put together.
I think that there's a hope that the state is going to change to an electronic reporting system in the next couple of years. I hope that they do, because it would be much easier to do this. You know, their form comes in and it is it's locked. We have to find a way to unlock certain parts of it, which makes formatting very difficult. So Bob is absolutely right. It's not made for Jefferson County. It's made for much smaller counties.
Do we not have any data for Holler 7 on curbside collections?
What was that, Sean?
Do we not have data for Holler 7 on curbside collections? In slide 13, we have 7 curbside and 7 front load collectors.
Yeah, one of those is going to be the city of Shively, which operates their own municipal system. We've never really pushed to get that data from them. I think that, you know, prior to my doing this, that was something that was never pushed. I think they kind of pushed back on it. So we just never did it.
Okay, so we just have partial data from the slide that we didn't really go into on that.
Yeah.
But we have unmasked Holler 7.
Don't tell anybody.
Yes.
Oh, is that right? Well, this one's commercial.
Right. No, I'm sorry. I was kidding
Okay.
about that. Yeah.
Don't do that.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. No, assuming that the commercial collection slide is corrected to show reported tons, I would move to approve. I know, I mean, you all have the ability to amend this if an error comes back, just like the haulers do. You know, I know that we've had typos. I've had typos before, but it's not locked in. You are able to correct it.
Yes, you're absolutely right, Andy. And I would say when it comes to the recycling data, we'll continue to get data and make adjustments as time goes on. Generally, there's nothing big in there. It's I find, 100 tons of this or that wasn't counted. So I would try to add those.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Are there any additional questions or comments on the annual report? Or submitting the annual? Okay, hearing none. Pete, I don't think we need it, but you want to do a voice vote on this, please?
Alex Davidson,
Yes.
Sean Killeen,
Yes.
Andy Reynolds,
Yes.
Carl Brazley,
Yes.
Bob Schindler,
Yes.
And Deetra is out tonight. So unanimous vote. Thank you all so much.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you again and your staff, Pete. You have a number of items in new business. You want to go to that?
Yeah, so we have several House bills that I wanted to make people aware of that kind of impact or potentially impact the Waste Management District. One is House Bill 135 related to solid waste management services. Basically, this is codifying something that we don't want to do anyway, which is taking and putting somebody's business information out there. Once it has not passed as of yet, so it may end up changing. And I think there was an amendment to this just the other day, so I'm not sure how this one's going to shake out. But what I would tell you is that this could impact the way that we do things in the future. It could impact the cost of services study, although I don't think that it really would. But this is just something that we want to make the board aware of, any kind of changes that could impact them. So that's House Bill 135. Is there any questions on this one?
No question. I just, this is really in response to a county that is not Jefferson County, that has a non-exclusive franchise that requires a monthly report that asks you to list every customer you have, every start, every stop, every late payment, amount billed, amount received, average rate. So and because it's a non-exclusive franchise and it's publicly available, any company can go in and say, well, I'm going to offer a contract to this customer at $1 less, a month. So it's not just onerous, but it's a little bit, it's putting the private sector in a position where we have to, risk antitrust violations just by looking at public reports.
Thank you for that information. I was not aware of that. The next bill is House Bill 565 related to waste management districts. This one is not passed either. I'm not sure where it is in the process. Basically saying that any member that has a term expire, they have 60 days to appoint a successor. And if not, the person has to vacate that position. I'm not sure where this one will end up going, if it's going to pass or if it will be amended. But, as a board that has struggled mightily trying to fill positions, not just recently, but for the history of this board, it has been, it can be very difficult. And I'm not sure that I really would think that we would want vacant positions sitting when we have somebody willing to serve, when we can't find somebody that would want to step into that role. But we'll see where this one goes. What I will tell you is that we have potentially 2 additional people to be appointed. I think that right now the mayor's office is taking a look at them. And if we get that, then we would be 100% again, up until this June, when I think that there's some appointments that will come up that we'll have to have some replacements for. So hopefully soon we'll be at 100%, and we'll see where it goes. Any questions on 565?
Yeah, Pete, regarding the areas that the 2 potential appointees would cover, just wanted you to go into that a little bit if you know any information.
Sure. Two positions, one being a person from unincorporated Jefferson County. And the biggest section of that is in the southwest Jefferson County. When you get into the eastern side, you have a lot of home rule cities that cut in and out, so it's very difficult to tell. But one is that unincorporated outside of the USD, not in a home rule city. It can be somebody in an HOA, that's not a problem. But that's where we want some representation from. The other one is Area C, Old Commissioner District, which stretches from the all the way out Dixie Highway to the county line, all the way into the Urban Services District. Anybody remember the old county commissioner? Well, actually, they're still in effect, but C District is that southwest part of Jefferson County. Traditionally been one of the hardest ones to fill. I think the last time somebody had to leave due to an illness, it was 2 years before we can find somebody that would fill that role. So those are the two positions. Hopefully we're going to have them covered, but you never know. And always, if you know anybody that's interested in serving on a board or commission, have them go to the mayor's website under boards and commissions. There's a whole lot of boards out there looking for people that need people that want to step up and do things. So, you know, they can always sign up, I think, as an interest on multiple different boards. So it would be good to have a bench of people wanting to be on the board. But it's a, you guys know, I mean, you're not getting paid a whole lot to be on this board. And you're really doing the community a service for being here. So thank you. Next House bill. I'm not going to get this. The next two House bills, with the exception of this part, are moot, and we won't really. I really haven't prepared anything, but other than this, which is an environmental remediation fee of $2 instead of $1.75, would be paid per ton on waste that's brought to landfills in the state of Kentucky. Those funds go to orphans, landfill cleanups, all kind of things. It may impact the price of things for everyone, but the money is really important for trying to keep the Commonwealth clean and illegal dumps cleaned up and the like. So it's something that is, you know, it has to be done. And, you know, when they change this, it's what we have to do. The other part of this bill 773, and I think the other one was 773, had to do with residual landfills. And initially I thought, well, Jefferson County has several residual landfills. And in effect, what it would have done is it would have put residual landfills within the 5-year solid waste man plan planning phase. And we'd have had to do we would have had to do 10-year projections on the waste and a lot of different things, consistency determinations. But on the flip side of that, it would have allowed for a certain percentage of the waste that went in there to fund litter abatement activities in the counties, which I was kind of excited about. I inquired after I set this up with the state to find out where they were in Jefferson County and found out we have none. So unless we're gonna get some, there really is no need for me to go into any further detail in House Bill 706 or 773. Any questions on the environmental remediation fee? Okay. I think we're getting into old business.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so last meeting we brought to you vehicle wreckage debris has been increasing, and we told you we was going to send the letter out. We have done so, and that letter was sent, and we've gotten 0 responses from any of the record services so far. I really thought that we would get a few, but we haven't. And we also wanted to make sure that we made LMPD aware, and I can tell you, I think Deputy Mayor George connected with LMPD, and the information was shared with all of the patrol commands, so that, you know, all of them are aware, and trying to make sure that they're having the record services clean up the debris at Rex. Any questions on that? Before I get into the other one of the things that we have been talking about that I've actually thought that we had on the agenda was the enforcement of covering your loads that was out there. We have not begun that. I just want to make that clear that we have not started our education, our letter to go out, nor working with LMPD to try to pull anybody over, or us issuing civil citations. But it was brought to my attention that the state, Kentucky State Police, were running DOT inspections along 65 and close to the outer loop. And they were pulling people over left and right, apparently. So come by authority that today that they're in further south than us, and they're pulling a bunch of people over. So apparently this is a state police initiative to start doing this. I can't say that I'm opposed to it because it fits exactly with what we're trying to do. I would have liked to have gotten our education letter out there first, but it is not part of what we're doing. So I just want to let people know that. Host community agreement. Okay, so we put any meetings on hold, and we did this for a couple of reasons. Number one, we wanted to meet with the Kentucky Local Assistance Branch to obtain our last authorized capacity approval amount. And they have been working to pull that up, and they have not been able to find it. It's an important number that is part of a community host agreement, and we need to have that number before we move forward. Another thing that we're trying to do is enlist the assistance of Tom Fitzgerald, formerly of the Kentucky Resource Council. Tom has a massive amount of knowledge when it comes to host agreements, and he's helped negotiate these all across the state. He has worked with the Kentucky Resource Council for quite some time. He is an attorney. And actually, I think Bob had stated that he assisted with Louisville, Jefferson County, when the original host agreement was drafted. So he also has a history of Jefferson County. He does live in Jefferson County. So we're hopefully, I haven't had direct conversations with him, but through an intermediary, he said he is interested in helping us. It's just a matter of working out the details. So we want to get that taken care of beforehand. The last part is an opinion from the Jefferson County Attorney's Office on the Open Meeting Act requirements to this. We do need to make sure that we follow this rule, the act very closely, because this is a big public input document that has to go through the public comment and public hearing process. We want to make sure that we can negotiate and that we can do that in closed session when needed, and make sure that we're not in closed session when it's not needed. And obviously for purposes of the outer loop landfill, we don't want competitors to be involved in the negotiating process for an agreement between the county and that entity. So still working to get a little bit more information on that, but I think that we came through pretty good. We have an understanding of what we can and can't do. So once we get all this in place, then we will be scheduling our meetings, and we'll be doing so according to the Open Meetings Act.
Pete, I saw a question from Deputy Mayor George asking if the Kentucky Local Assistance Branch gave a time frame for getting the last authorized capacity.
They have not. Well, I would say that they said that they would have it last week, but they haven't gotten it.
Okay.
Week. So they're having trouble finding it. So
Okay.
We'll see. Any other questions on the host agreement? Okay, this is the time.
Well, sorry, another one came in. What happens if they can't find it?
That's exactly what I was about to ask.
I didn't understand what you say.
The follow-up question was, what happens if they can't find the last authorized?
I'm sorry. That's a really good question, Andy. I don't know. It'll probably come down to what the state's going to tell us what we need to do.
Okay.
Well, Pete, I'm trying to think of when the last time we had to, we being the district, had to do anything with capacity agreements. if they can't find it, I don't know how good the records are, or how accessible some of the old waste management district records are, but we ought to have that stuff in our files because we dealt with it and it was a large discussion, as I recall, between, with the advisory committee and then, a little bit of a discussion once it got back to the board. So hopefully if the state, I can't understand why the state can't find it because they required us to do it.
Right. And if it's contained within the older amendments of the host agreement, then yes, we do have it. But we need to make sure that what we would have is going to match what the state has.
Yeah.
So just trying to make sure that we're in a good spot before we really truly get started. So, you got to know where you're at before you can move forward.
All right, advisory committee report.
This is where I get a chance to be quiet for a few minutes.
Just barely a few minutes, Pete. Good evening, everyone. We did reconvene the full advisory committee and kind of joined all the subcommittees back together. And the RFP for the cost of services study, obviously, I believe that's in purchasing hands now. Is that correct, Pete?
That is correct.
And there was a group tasked with working on the community host agreement at the last advisory committee meeting, as well as a very detailed presentation made by Karen with regard to recycle rate program. And I don't know if Karen's available. Maybe she could go over that.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yes, actually, I was going to go ahead and share the same slides that we shared at the advisory committee last week. So if you were here for that, I apologize for the duplicate short presentation here. But I did want to give an update on the Recycle Right program and some of the data. So basically, the goal of this program, which I've shared about before, is to reduce recycling contamination and increase the quality of recycled materials. And we have found through this program's pilot and then continuing to find that education right at the cart is effective for people to get automatic feedback. So basically, our team goes out, we select areas, but our team goes out on Recycle Day and leaves the first time a letter along with a tag after looking inside the cart to see if any of these contaminants are there. So on the right, that yellow tag, you can see there's 6 options. These are kind of, it doesn't mean that those are the only things that are bad, but these are the top contaminants we're looking for, basically styrofoam, bagged recycling, any kind of hazardous waste like batteries or anything flammable, large items that can cause issues at the facility, food and liquid, of course, are bad, and then plastic shopping bags. And then on the other side of each tag, it shows what is acceptable to recycle, which are in those basic categories of plastic, metal, glass, paper, and cartons. So if you recall, I guess there are some new members. I'm not really sure when I've talked about this, but if we don't see any of the contaminants, they get that green way to know tag that still says keep recycling these things on the other side. And for the most part, we give out yellow tags, which gives the feedback that we found some things in their cart that aren't really acceptable, but they're not detrimental to the whole process. So the crew would collect as usual. Occasionally we do come across a cart that is basically being used very inappropriately with a lot of garbage or maybe even yard waste. And that's when we use those red tags and we communicate with the hauler that that there's a couple red tags, or we give the addresses to say these we would prefer them not to be collected, and that the cart would have to be corrected by the resident. So we've been doing this program. I think you might have skipped a slide, Pete, or it didn't come through. it's okay. I want to just look. We started this program in November of 2023 fully, and we've completed 17 areas. We're close to having a few more. Since last week, I haven't updated any of this data, but there hasn't been like a major change in a week. But anyway, so our overall averages that we're seeing. A lot of what I look at are the percentage of green tags that I give on the very first tagging, and then on the next tagging, or we do either 2 or 3, depending on how well they are doing. And so from first to last tagging, we have an average of 12% more green tags given. The highest percentage, if you look at all of the high percentages of green tags, like on the second or third tagging, and take an average, 67% is kind of the average going on with, and that's after some education. We're seeing, after some education, we're seeing a 10% reduction of plastic bags and wrap and 9% reduction of bagged recycling. And I only put those two on there because they are our highest contaminants that we see. We occasionally do see some styrofoam and maybe some large items. One example being like a laundry basket or something like that. So, so those do make it into our data, but it's pretty consistent that the plastic bags and wrap and then the bagged recycling are our top 2 contaminants that we see. And I just highlighted a couple areas here that these are like our best results that we saw. Not every area is this drastic, but I wanted to share. We actually used this area in our pilot program, and we expanded a little bit when we went, and that was 3 to 4 years ago. And then when we started this, we chose a similar area. We just expanded it a little bit. This is around Iroquois Manor, Southside Drive, South 3rd Street area. And we saw an increase of green tags at 37%. And after tagging 3 times, 77% of the residents got green tags. And those 19% and 9% were our reduction in bags and wrap and bagged recycling. So that was pretty good. And then this one, sorry, it's hard to read that, but Southwestern Parkway, and Larkwood River Park Drive. This is in the west end of Louisville. We saw an increase of 34% of green tags, and then 65% was our final rate that we saw. And you can see the percentages there of how well they reduced plastic bags and bagged recycling. So those were our top 2 areas that that we did that I'm super proud of. So this is a screenshot of our dashboard that is very new, and it's pretty neat. But so basically, as the team is collecting this data, they're using an app, and they're marking down what contaminants they saw and what color tag they left, and the address, of course, and it's geolocated. But so you can see just at this screenshot where we've been in Louisville, and when you're actually on the dashboard, as you zoom in, you can go to the household level and see the different color dots to know how many tags have been given.
Do you have that up, Karen, and you can share it?
Yeah, I do have it up if you want to swap out. All right, can everybody see that?
Yes.
All right, so this is in real time, and like I said, it's very new, so I haven't had a whole lot of time to play with it. But when you're looking at it like this, you basically are seeing every tag we've ever given, which is about 6,000 tags. And then you can see the rate of green, yellow, and red, and the numbers for each of our contaminants. So you can kind of see what I mean by the percentages being much higher for bagged items and plastic bags compared to all the other contaminants. The only thing that I haven't quite figured out the easiest way to do is to really see the change. So we like being able to share, hey, this is what they got the first time, and this is how much better they got. So so that's the only issue that I'm trying to figure out. But you can, first of all, you can kind of, like I said, zoom in. I'll go way to the east because I want to say thank you to Andy for partnering with us, and we got some WM routes going. So you can kind of see where we've been there. Let's see, this is Wolf Pen Woods area. So so there should be a couple dots because we actually did this area twice and considered it complete. But you can kind of see the rate here, but without changing any dates and watching it change from the first tagging to the second, you can't really see the increase or the, you know, the increase in green tags or the change over time. But that's what we'll work on, figuring out the best way to look at that. So we have different routes we've been doing within the urban services district, and we're still looking for, we've still got one of the WM routes we're not quite finished with. And I did want Andy to know it's not really an outlier. We do have some areas that either, we have one area that did not improve, and it's in the West End, and we're looking at some other educational tactics. And then another area that just kind of stayed the same. So, so I asked Andy if we could do a third tagging in the area we're in because we didn't see enough improvement or none at all really, but I didn't want you to think you're a complete outlier on
It's
that.
okay to
So
publicly
there
shame
are
me,
other
Karen.
areas.
It's fine. You can call it out.
When you're inputting these, do they go in with a date stamp?
Yeah. Yeah, there's a date stamp. So this, let's see, if I change it, oops, to, let's just start at November 1st to the, that wrong, because that should be up here. If we say November 1st up here and just go a couple months, you can see our areas change because of where we were, I guess, at that time.
Mm-hmm.
Which doesn't really make sense because, oh no, there's some there too.
I was
So
just thinking, you know, it may not be something that you can do natively within the app, but if you know the dates that you want to compare, you can just export the data for date 1 and then export the data for date 2. And
yeah, so that's
just
what I've
compare.
done to obtain any kind of data to share either with a council person or the HOA person. You know, I can share that data specifically. We were just trying to figure out how to make the dashboard be able to show that. But like I said, if you know the dates that you had a tagging event, you can look at each date and kind of see the difference there. But I just, oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I would add that our goal is to possibly get this to where it's a live website. So when somebody comes through, they can take a look and see what they're doing. I don't think it's ready for that yet. This operates through GIS system, and I know that there's additional capabilities. It's just a matter of working with our GIS team to be able to display the information where it's simple and easy for people to utilize and see what's going on.
Yeah, but having the dashboard is exciting. Just I don't know, it's just kind of fun to see it on the map, see where we've been, and see some of those rates. I think that was my last slide for that program.
It was.
Does anybody else have any other questions about the program?
Just in general on the single stream recycling decrease that was mentioned earlier. Pete, I know you said we were going to maybe talk about that a little bit more later on. Do we know any root cause as to like why that decrease is happening, or does it seem like an anomaly?
I don't think it's an anomaly because it's been each year in a decline. So I don't think it's an anomaly. I think it's something that's taken place. You know, it could be the switch to every other week. It could be, which a lot of people have done. Uh, it could be that we're doing a much better job of educating and we're having less contamination, food contamination. It could be that. That would be a positive thing. Um, you know, I really can't put my finger on why that it would be occurring. I would be interested in Andy and Bruce's thoughts on it, if they had seen any differences in what they were doing.
Sorry, yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh,
No, go ahead, Diane. Sorry.
I was going to say, do you think maybe that producers, container producers are making their products lighter? Like, I know they're making plastic containers lighter. Do you think they're doing the same? I don't know, Kim, maybe you can.
I was going to
answer.
actually say something. I think that that's a portion, but I really don't think it makes up for a percentage of what's happening. But I mean, there is data out there that purchasing is down 18 to 20%. We see a big reduction. It really did spike during COVID of people ordering to go and Amazons, and we've seen a lot of Walmarts closing, 7, I think, just in 2024 nationwide, and we're only in March. You know, right before about 2 years ago, Amazon was slated to open up 130 locations. They dialed it back to 30. So, you know, we're seeing it in Home Depot and Lowe's as well. So I think that also aids in it as well.
I think at longer term, Diane, I think that that's probably a pretty good thing. I mean, when you look at what an aluminum can weighed 25 years ago versus what it weighs now, or even a plastic soda bottle. I mean, the water bottles you get now, you can just crinkle up. It's almost like you're holding a balloon. So definitely, I mean, that's better for the people that manufacture stuff because you have to use less material, less cost. And there has been a big drive by businesses or producers to reduce their packaging. So it could be all of those factors. We just don't, it's very difficult to put your finger on.
Or maybe Karen and I are doing such a great job. People are reducing their waste.
I think that's
and
probably number
buying in
one.
bulk.
I'm going with.
I like it.
I mean, we honestly haven't seen, you know, on the private hauler side, we haven't seen a lot of people canceling recycling service or anything like that. I think, you know, once you start recycling service, you tend not to stop it. We're actually, as an industry, I think, doing a better job charging for additional trash containers than we were before. The automation system, you know, or the automation transition that we're going through, where we're requiring customers to use carts that are compatible with our ASL trucks that use a mechanical lift arm, should actually see an increase in recycling, because as you're charging more for, you know, disposal of more trash, ideally you would see people start to sign up for recycling. That might be a cheaper service than a second trash cart. So we're not really seeing people cancel out of it, but I would say, you know, to Kim's point, you know, we really did see a peak there for a while in home consumption, especially in takeout. People are still doing that, but it's not, you know, every day of the week. So hopefully it'll normalize and we'll start to see an increase again. You know, we've also moved people to 96-gallon carts, you know, across the industry for the most part, from 18-gallon bins. So even with the sort of corresponding change from, in a lot of cases, from weekly collection with 18-gallon bins to every other week collection with 96-gallon carts, that's still, you know, almost 3 times the volume every 2 weeks from what you would get, you know, weekly with an 18-gallon bin.
The only thing I would add to the bin, and I agree with you 100%, Andy, on the calculations there, is that I do think that we probably saw a reduction in people who already had the carts, with theirs going down to 1 time a week. I'm sorry, every other week.
Yeah, your heavy recyclers were able, you know, we're still filling 1 cart,
Right.
you know, every week. Yeah.
Pete, I would also like to, and I agree with everything that Andy contributed. But I would recommend that we reach out to the recycling partnership to see if they have any regional numbers and for comparison, just to see if they
idea.
are actually trending like partner cities or if there is a true anomaly going on in the market.
Yeah, that's a good idea. We can do that. I believe that concludes our presentation for tonight.
Okay. Thank you, Bruce and Diane and Karen. Staff report?
I don't think we have anything on the staff report.
All right, the only thing remaining is one on that. The next one on Biden board meeting will be April 24th, and the next advisory committee meeting will be Wednesday, April the 17th. Are there any questions, comments from the public? Anybody attending the meeting? Okay.
Hey, Bob, I do have one reminder for board members.
Yeah.
There is they should have received information for a training that covers the open records, open meetings,
Yeah.
the ethics code and financial disclosure. So make sure you're checking your emails and doing those. It's required that you, once you've completed it, that you submit that back to the mayor's office so they can confirm that you've completed that.
Yeah, I got that the other day, I think.
Yeah, Pete, is there any requirement beyond the signature, the attestation, or I did the training, but other than that initial signature, I didn't see anything to submit an addition, like to submit the training or.
Yeah, I didn't see the email, so I don't know.
Okay, I'll
probably
go back.
best
I'll
thing
go
that-
back and check. I just don't want to have taken it and then have it sitting out there that, that I didn't do it.
Yeah, I think you can check with Althea, who
Okay.
you signed up with, and
Sure.
she could probably answer your question better than I.
Okay.
All right, if we don't have any other questions or comments, board members or the public, thank you all for attending again. Appreciate your efforts. Thank you for being here. And we'll see you next month.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.